Socialism and Millennials. Socialism has become quite popular among millennials. They were born well before the horrors of the gulags, the breadlines, and the secret police common under Soviet-style communism. Pol Pot, Mao, and Stalin are ancient history having little relevance to today's millennials. For millennials, socialism is an ideology helping the weak, forcing the wealthy pay their fair share, and helping the less fortunate with free housing, free education, and generous welfare. They have solidarity with socialist countries in South America, Africa, and Asia, with many millennials admiring socialist leaders like Che Guevara and Castro. But it's curious that few millennials are keen to visit and explore these socialist utopias. Few millennials are seen traveling and moving to countries like Venezuela, China, North Korea, or Cuba. In fact, people are moving in the opposite direction, with people from Cuba flooding into Miami, Venezuelans flooding into Colombia, and Chinese flooding into Singapore and other Western countries. This puzzling conundrum of millennials admiring socialism but being reluctant to visit and immigrate to socialist countries should be examined. One factor that explains this paradox is millennials have grown up exposed to liberal ideology that's become 2 + 2 = 5 in nature. In the book 1984, the Ministry of War is called the Ministry of Peace, and the Ministry of Propaganda is called the Ministry of Truth. It's common to see liberal Hollywood actors espouse socialist ideas while living in a Hollywood mansion. Or a liberal ideologue embracing gender equality, yet calling a female-only company diverse. Or a politically correct person calling for free speech while pushing cancel culture. Or hating racism but then supporting Hamas and despising Israel. With millennials growing up in such an Orwellian 2 + 2 = 5 echo chamber, it is little wonder they will say correct things about socialism, yet their actions show the opposite. Reluctant to relocate to a socialist paradise like Cuba, picking spuds all day in a commune. They'd prefer to use correct-sounding words about socialism and avoid a thought crime. All the while spending all day chatting with their friends on a capitalist-made iPhone. The contradictory attitude amongst millennials might change if the true nature of liberal ideology and socialism was made clear. These socialist ideologies put man rather than God in the center of the universe. In a socialist country, you'll commonly see a socialist leader's portrait like Castro, Kim Il-jung, Stalin, Hugo Chavez, and Mao on every wall. Rarely do you see religious countries kneeling before their leaders. In general, religious countries are freer than any socialist country. Even a theocracy like Iran is freer than China, North Korea, or Cuba. If millennials were free to admit the 2 + 2 = 5 nature of liberal ideology, they might be courageous enough to reject the ideology. They'd find the bravery to say they want freedom, not prostrating themselves before a socialist tin pot dictator who thinks he's God. They might then admit that free markets, freedom of speech, democracy, rule of law, and Christian morality is better than living a life in chains.